right, we will call the April 8th Planning Commission meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the determination of a quorum, which we have. Matthew, I think you had some comments to make.
Yeah, just a public service announcement. It seems like I'm having to make these announcements every month or two. So this is for anybody in the audience who might be an applicant. So there is I think it's a nationwide scam. I actually saw where the FBI actually put out a bulletin on its website where scammers are targeting local planning and zoning commissions and the applicants for those commissions. And so they're mining publicly available data and posing as local governments. And yeah, Mr. Criswell got one of the emails, and I think Mr. Belt did as well. So what I would say to applicants, if we don't tell you in person, or if we don't, and if you don't get an email with a legitimate murfreesborotn.gov email address notifying you that there is a outstanding fee or payment due, delete it. Don't engage with the scammer, and surely don't wire money, because I think they're asking for money to be wired to the faux city government. So please, all of our fees are posted on our website. We will never ask you for fees other than the legitimate fees that are on our website, and we'll never ask you for a $5,000 or $10,000 city compensation fee. So just please bear that in mind, and do not engage with the scammers, and certainly do not provide them money. And this is for any future applicants who are watching as well.
All right, thank you, Matthew. The other item that's not on our agenda, I wanted to recognize Dr. Cody with MTSU and his city planning class that's here tonight. Thank y'all for being here. We appreciate that. The next item on our agenda, and this gets a little confusing for people who have not been to a public hearing before, we have a public comments section where people sign up before the meeting to speak. And did we have anybody? No. Okay. So that doesn't, yeah, see, that's why let me explain. So you will have the opportunity to speak during the public hearing in question. This public comments section is strictly for someone that signed up prior to the evening, but everyone here will have an opportunity to speak on each application that they so choose as part of the public hearing process. The next item on our agenda is approving the minutes of March 11th and the joint conceptual workshop meeting, and the March 11th, 2026 Planning Commission regular meeting, and the March 18th Planning Commission regular meeting. Are there any changes or adjustments that need to be made to those minutes?
For approval.
Second. Ms. Jaco?
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Rollins?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Halliburton?
Aye. All right. Next item on our agenda is the public hearing. So again, if you've not been to a public hearing here in the city of Murfreesboro, we would ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. I will tell you when you are 30 seconds away from those 3 minutes. If you're here speaking on behalf of an entire neighborhood or a neighborhood association, we will give you 5 minutes. We would ask that any questions that you ask or comments that you make are addressed to the Planning Commission and not members or any member of the crowd that's here tonight. We will take note of your questions and answer your questions at the end of the public hearing so that we collectively answer all questions that are brought up during the public hearing. So if you ask a question, you're probably not going to get a response while you're standing there, but you will get a response at the end of the public hearing. With that, our first public hearing is a zoning application for approximately 2.79 acres located along Gresham Lane to be rezoned from CL to RS 15 to PND Franklin Road Christian School, and Franklin Road Baptist Church is the applicant. Ms. Kerr.
Thank you, Chair Halliburton and members of Planning Commission. The first public hearing tonight is for property that consists of 2 parcels located along Gresham Lane containing approximately 2.79 acres. The area included in the zoning map for the amended request is currently developed as the Franklin Road Christian School soccer field. The property is zoned commercial local district. The site is adjacent to Gresham Lane. And this is part of the Franklin Road Baptist Church campus, which is presently an outside of the city sewer customer for the city of Murfreesboro. On July 24, 2019, the church received a special use permit from the Board of Zoning Appeals to allow for the development of a soccer field. The approval was subject to the following conditions: no field lighting, no outdoor amplification except on infrequent basis in association with special church events, a site plan for the athletic field and new parking area to be submitted and approved. Site plan shall demonstrate compliance with the minimum 10-foot width requirement for a Type B buffer. And then parcels located at 138 and 154 Gresham Lane shall be combined with the main church lot through a re-subdivision plat. The church is requesting rezoning of the property to P&D in order to permit the installation of field lighting and outdoor amplification for the existing soccer field. The request for lighting includes installation of 4 poles with 6 LED fixtures, that's a total of 24 light fixtures at 70 feet overall height, and 2 audio speakers per pole, which would be 8 at a 20-foot mounting height. In 2025, the zoning ordinance was amended to make expansions and modifications to school allowed by right, except for 3 instances. If a school had never previously been established on the property, an expansion of greater than 50,000 square foot floor area is proposed, or if lighting or amplified sound is proposed in conjunction with the recreation or athletic field. Since Franklin Road Christian School is proposing outdoor lighting and amplified sound at its soccer field, rezoning to P&D is required due to the recent ordinance amendment. If approved, the city will require that the subject property be combined with the main church property through a re-subdivision plat. Approval of the P&D would supersede the special use permit granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals in July of 2019, including the previously imposed conditions related to lighting and amplification. Franklin Road Baptist Church has 2 primary access points along Franklin Road, along the southwest boundaries of the overall development, an additional access point on Elmore Knott Road, which is a local street to the north, and then Gresham Lane has multiple entrances along its corridor to different properties, and including one that goes into the subject property parking lot. Exceptions must be specifically identified and requested in the application for a planned development. The P&D program book identifies 6 requested exemptions to include light spillage exception on the north property line. This request is to allow light spillage into the residential property located to the north, and that is in the unincorporated county currently. This property is owned by Franklin Road Baptist Church and is currently used for staff housing. The north property line buffer requirement, this exception is requested to supersede the landscape screening and buffering requirements along the north property line that were established as a condition of the 2019 Board of Zoning Appeals special use permit. Franklin Road Baptist Church has purchased the property to the north and will be incorporating it into as part of its campus. A re-subdivision plat timing and exception is requested to modify the BZA special use permit condition requiring recordation of a re-subdivision plat prior to The soccer field development, the applicant proposes to record the plat following the effective date of this rezoning request if approved. The lighting and amplification is an exception that is requested to supersede the special use permit by the BZA condition prohibiting lighting and outdoor amplified sound at the soccer field. Approval of this rezoning would permit permanent field lighting and amplified sound. There's front yard parking encroachment along Gresham Lane. There is an exception for a 9 feet wide along Gresham Lane that is requested to be a standard from the standard that is in Chart 1 in Note 32A, 34-2A, which prohibits parking within the required front yard. A Type C buffer requirement on the north property line. An exception is requested from Chart 1 in Note 34-2B, which requires a Type C buffer between the lighted amplified soccer field areas used for residential purposes. The residents to the north are currently owned by Franklin Road Baptist Church and proposed for demolition, and the area is planned to be redeveloped into soccer field, unlit soccer field, open space, access drives, and parking in the future. The Murfreesboro 2035 Comprehensive Plan recommends a land use character of PI, which is public institutional, for the subject property. The category encompasses major city, county, and state-owned facilities, plus other public and private buildings and sites with an institutional nature. P&D is a suggested zoning district for the PI land use character. In staff's opinion, the rezoning request is consistent with the recommendations of the land use map and the comprehensive plan. Staff is supportive of this request due to the fact that the proposed development type and characteristics are consistent with the recommendations of the approved Murfreesboro 2035 Comprehensive Plan and the future land use plan. The proposed lighting and sound amplification should be compatible with adjacent uses, as there is commercial uses adjacent directly across from the soccer fields on Gresham Lane, and the residences directly to the north is part of the Franklin Road Baptist Church campus. The applicant is available tonight with a brief presentation, and a copy of the program book is in your agenda. And the Planning Commission should conduct a public hearing prior to formulating a recommendation to City Council.
Any questions for Ms. Kerr at this point? Thank you. Mr. Huddleston, oh my.
Good evening, Chairman Halliburton, members of the Planning Commission. Sam Huddleston here, representing Franklin Road Baptist Church, and Kevin Chasteen with Griggs Maloney, planner, also here on our team. And thank you, Ms. Kerr, for a very comprehensive cover of our plan. I think just a couple of things I want to add. We did not own the properties to the north when the application was made to the BZA. And Mr. Halliburton, you may remember our case when you were on that board. And now we own those. The other thing with the growth of our Christian school and our church athletics, having lighting there would certainly give us a lot more use of the properties, especially early in the spring and late in the fall. And our church and school runs both a spring league and a fall league, and so this would help us. The lighting is temporary. We've proposed to shut it off at certain times of the evening. And so we look forward to moving this ahead. Kevin and I are here for questions either before or after the public hearing, and we appreciate your consideration tonight.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Huddleston at this point? All right. Thank you, Sam. All right. We will open the public hearing. One thing I failed to mention, if you do choose to speak on the applications, if you would, when you come to the podium, state your name and your address. So we will open the public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak on this application, either for or against, please come forward. All right, seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. And any questions, comments, or motions associated with this application?
If there are no questions, I move for approval subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Jaco?
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. All right, the next item on our agenda is a zoning application for approximately 167.42 acres located along Northwest Broad Street to be rezoned from CH and GDO1 to PUD, the Clarius Park PUD, with no GDO. Clarius Partners LLC is the applicant. Mr. Barbie.
Good afternoon, Chair Halliburton and members of the Murfreesboro Planning Commission. This next application before you today is a request to zone an existing piece of property from Commercial Highway and Gateway Design Overlay 1 to Planned Unit District, the Clarius Park Planned Unit District, with no Gateway Design Overlay applied. The total parcel area is 167.4 acres located along Northwest Broad Street, southeast of its intersection with Interstate 840. Excuse me. Adjacent land uses to the west are vacant land, zoned commercial highway. To the east, you have our City of Murfreesboro wastewater facility, as well as another vacant piece of property. To the south, across Northwest Broad Street, they currently have a part of a rock quarry and some single-family detached dwellings that are developed. And then to the north, we have the Oakley subdivision that is developed with large estate lots, single-family detached homes. The Clarius Park PUD is a master-planned industrial business park. Net PUD area is 155.1 acres, which differs from the total land area. The reason for that difference is there is a donation of property to our Water Resources Department for some future expansion space, in addition to the public right-of-way for the streets that would be included. So that is why there's a difference between the total land area and the net PUD area. Total of 7 buildings, 2.1 million square feet of warehousing space. Building sizes range from about 90,000 square feet to a little over 1 million square feet. Maximum height is 75 feet. Inside your document, the staff report you've been provided is a sampling to kind of give you an impression or a feeling of what the uses will be that are allowed within the district. This is not a complete list of the uses allowed within the PUD. That complete list will be found within your plan book that adjoined your staff report today. Access will be along Northwest Broad Street, with future accesses planned to go to the west and connect with the Cherry Lane Stones Battle Parkway eventually once it has been constructed and extended. Buffering and landscaping. They currently have proposed a 20-foot wide type E buffer along the eastern boundary line. That's proposed to be either a vegetative buffer or a mixed buffer, which would have a 6-foot tall opaque privacy fence integrated into its design. The west boundary has a 10-foot type A buffer, and then along the stream to the north, well, stream actually, I think that's the Stones River, is a 100-foot stream buffer and a 30-foot wetland buffer as well. Architectural standards are designed, let's see if I can get, yep. As you can see here, it's tilt-up panel construction with glass at entry points and corners to help accent. The tilt-up panels will be of varying colors just to break up the solid facade, and they also do provide some offsets to create interest as required by our design guidelines. Parking is provided on site. They don't have exact end users yet, so they have estimated to the best of their ability how many parking spaces will be necessary for this development and have future plans of how they can expand parking if necessary by utilizing spaces on the existing property. Our future land use map identifies this property as EG, which is employment generating. Let's see if I can get back to that map. There we go. As you can see, most of that property along Northwest Broad Street at that interchange is in the EG district. While this application is not consistent with the current future land use map, a small area plan called the Cherry Lane Stones Battle Parkway Study Area is currently in process, and the future land use map is likely to be amended to identify this area as predominantly industrial as a result of that study. So that area that you're seeing here would most likely change to an industrial classification. Staff is supportive of the zoning request as described above for the following reasons. And again, while this application is not consistent with the current future land use map, small study plan, the Cherry Lane Stones Battle Parkway study is in process and is expected to identify this area as industrial use in the future. And also that the plan proposes an exceptional transition and buffer area adjacent to the residential use areas along the northern property line. This transition and buffer ranges between 600 feet to 800 feet from the nearest buildings to the residential property lines. Therefore, staff believes that the plan is designed to be compatible with those adjacent residential uses. The applicant will need to make a presentation as well tonight. After he is completed, the Planning Commission will need to conduct a public hearing before formulating a recommendation for our City Council. I believe Mr. Brian Grover is right here.
Any questions for Mr. Barbie at this point? Okay. Thank you.
Chair Halliburton, members of the Planning Commission, good evening. I am Brian Grover from SEC. On behalf of Claris Partners and the representative Craig Daniger, we want to thank you for the time and opportunity to present to you our request. The project is located along Northwest Broad Street, just south of 840. It is known as the Horde property. You may have seen this come before you over the years with different iterations, but as it is today, it is currently vacant. It is zoned commercial highway. This request would take that to a planned unit development. As Mr. Barbie stated, this does not follow the current future land use map. However, upon further study that staff has been reviewing with the Cherry Lane Master Plan, industrial uses are being proposed for this section of Murfreesboro. Some site photos as the site exists today. This is the approximate location of the eastern entrance to the site looking into the proposed development, along with the western entrance looking into the development. This is looking down Northwest Broad Street. It's images of the adjacent properties. This is just west of the development. An example of the northern residential properties, as well as the wastewater plant just northeast of the site. The proposed PUD consists of approximately 167.5 acres, of which 5 would be donated towards the sewer treatment plant for their future expansion needs, as well as about a little over 7 acres being dedicated towards internal right-of-way, leaving approximately 155 acres for the development. The site would be accessed from 41 via 2 entrances. There is also a proposed 100-foot right-of-way for the east and western connection. That also has a connection going to 41 along the eastern portion of the property. The property consists of 7 lots, which would house those 7 buildings, having a maximum square footage for the development around 2.1 million square feet. The parking and trailer storage areas around the site. On the northern portion of the site, the primary location of the trailer storage is located internally. That was upon discussions having with the neighbors at the neighborhood meeting that they wanted to make sure that that portion of the site would have that internalized to mitigate any type of impact to the surrounding area. While the southern portion of the development focuses the buildings towards the entryways and frontage along Broad Street to really address the streets. The open space areas located in green here will also be housing the detention, which is those darker areas. The open space areas will also have the wetlands that are currently located on site, as well as the tree preservation area located along the Stones River. These open space areas will be recorded in their own common open space lots. And here's a deviation of what those would look like, with the yellow being the buildable lots and the green being the common open space lots. Some key standards with this development, although not all of them, is that the trailer parking areas will be screened from Northwest Broad Street. All the entry points into the development, as well as intersections that are internal, will make sure that they allow for proper turning and maneuvering throughout the site. And the development will be providing landscape buffers along the eastern and western portions. We'll also be providing enhanced landscaping along US 41 to help build up that curb appeal, as this is more of an entryway into Murfreesboro, either from 41 or off of 840. And working with staff and some of the stakeholders, such as neighbors, we have worked with this proposed use list that we still think will offer economic opportunities throughout Murfreesboro, as well as being compatible with the surrounding area. When it comes to the setbacks for the site, the external setbacks along Northwest Broad Street would be 42 feet, with the sides being 10. However, the rear would be 400, which is significantly more than what we typically have for setbacks, but we want to make sure we have that separation from those residential units to the north. The interior setbacks from the proposed right-of-ways would be 42 feet, and the proposed setbacks from the internal lot lines would be 42 from the front, as we do have some shared access areas on site, such as here, which would have that 42 feet, with 10 on the side and 20 on the rear. This development will be built in 2 phases, with phase 1 consisting of 4 buildings and just under 50 acres, with the remainder being built in phase 2. With phase 1, there is some infrastructure improvements that are being built along with this first portion, including a proposed pump station, as well as roadway improvements. A traffic impact study has been completed, and you can find that on page 16 of the plan book. To summarize more or less what that recommended was that the southern entrance along Northwest Broad Street would be a signalized entrance that would have turn lanes both north and southbound along 41. It would also include 2 lanes into the development, as well as a dedicated left and right out. You can see that there is 2 additional turn lanes highlighted in blue, one for a right turn lane out of the development and one for a southbound turn lane into the development from 41. What the traffic impact study did was it took into consideration future development as well. And although this turn lanes would not be technically warranted with our development, they would be warranted in the future at some point. So rather than having dedicated right-of-way figured out later on, we wanted to include that within the dedication for right-of-way now, so those improvements could be made by others as they're warranted later down the road. The northern entrance would be a right in and right out, and would include a dedicated right turn lane when northbound on US 41. And with phase 1, we also have that dedication for the wastewater area, as well as the right-of-way. And with this right-of-way on the north to the east-west connection, would also be providing 2 lanes within that 100-foot right-of-way. The buildings would not exceed 75 feet in height. They would be using a variety of materials, as well as different points with their facades coming in and out to break up that monolithic look. However, Lot 2, as it fronts Northwest Broad Street, would be incorporating some enhanced elevations. So this is a typical elevation for the development, but then the Lot 2 building would incorporate enhancements such as this. Typical corner approach for the development for the buildings, and this is the enhanced elevation for those corners on Lot 2, and the standard entryways, and once again being enhanced for that Lot 2 building facing Northwest Broad Street. The 2 buffers being proposed on the site, one type E on the eastern side and the type A located on the western. There are only 2 exceptions at this time being proposed for this development. The first is that the required perimeter yard and plantings between Lot 3 and 4 are excluded, as there's currently a proposed shared drive between those areas, and also request an exception that the common open space lots provide the perimeter plantings along external lot lines and right-of-ways only. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those now or after the public hearing.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will open the public hearing associated with this application. Is anyone here that would like to speak for or against this application? All right, seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. Any questions for staff or the applicant associated with this application? And if not, what action do you want to take?
Move for approval, subject to staff comments.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. Next item on our agenda is the zoning application for approximately 1.37 acres located along Rushwood Drive to be rezoned from Office General and RS8 to PCD, Planned Commercial Development, Bellwood Office Park PCD. Wayne Belt is the applicant. Mr. Barbie.
Good afternoon, Chairman Halliburton and members of the Planning Commission again. This application before you is a request to rezone 1.37 acres located along Rushwood Drive to be rezoned from Office General and Residential Single Family 8 to Planned Commercial District, the Bellwood Office Park Planned Commercial District. As stated, the parcel is 1.37 acres located along the eastern side of South Church Street. Adjacent developments and land uses to the north is the Jefferson Square Professional Business Park. To the east is a residential multifamily apartment complex. To the west is an office building, zoned commercial highway. And to the south are several residential single-family detached homes zoned RS8. You can see that in the red in the image above, where a small portion of one of those RS8 lots will be subdivided and dedicated to the main lot where this development is proposed if approved. Bellwood Office Park PCD will contain 4 buildings, approximately 1,952 square feet for each building, with tenant spaces in each. It has a fairly limited list of land uses. There are a total of 8 proposed uses for this district. You'll see those on page 2 of your staff report. They're all intended to be fairly low intensity uses. Financial services, flower or plant store, interior decorator, art or photography studio or gallery, bank, barber, beauty shop. It'll be very similar to the uses that you see in the existing Jefferson Square development to the north. Access would be exclusive to Rushwood Drive. There would be no connection point to the Jefferson Square development to the north or to the office complex to the west or the apartment complex. Buffering and landscaping, they have got proposed currently a type B buffer, which consists of a double row of broad-growing evergreen trees along the southern property line and a type A buffer along the eastern property line, which is the apartment complex, which would be a single row of broad-growing evergreen trees. The remainder of the property would have perimeter planting yards, base of building, landscaping per our zoning ordinance. There is a slight differentiation. The RS8 portion where the driveway goes through which would have hedgerows on each side to help provide some screening without overgrowing that area and causing obstruction to the drive. The main parcel located in this request is recommended to be developed by our future land use map as BP Business Park. Land character as with recommended zoning districts of Office General Residential, Commercial, Planned Commercial District, or Planned Institutional Development. As you can see on, here's our future land use map where you can see how it ties in with the surrounding properties. The RS8 to the south is actually classified as auto urban residential within the district. Staff is supportive of the zoning request as described above for the following reasons. The request is consistent with the recommendations of the Murfreesboro 2035 Comprehensive Plan. Landscape buffers will be provided to mitigate any potential negative impacts to the neighboring properties. And uses will be primarily daytime-oriented uses, so as to minimize any intrusion on adjacent residential uses. Planning Commission will need to conduct a public hearing on this matter tonight, and at the conclusion, we need to hold any discussion before making a formulation to our City Council.
All right, thank you, Mr. Barbie. Any questions for Mr. Barbie before he? Okay, thank
I
you.
do want to apologize. I did not mention that Mr. Clyde Roundtree with the applicant is also available and will be making a presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Where are we?
It's on the taskbar at the bottom, Clyde, one of the PowerPoints.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Chair Halliburton, Planning Commissioners, my name is Clyde Roundtree, Huddleston Steel Engineering. Thank you so much for hearing our request for Bellwood Office Park. I'm here representing Mr. Wayne Belt, who has been the developer in this area for a long time, and this is a piece of property that he's owned for a long time as well, and we're looking forward to seeing it move forward with development. As Brad mentioned, we'd like to thank Brad for his presentation. It's always thorough. It is a 1.37 acre piece of property that has been graded and prepped up and site ready for development. It is really going to be consistent in character with that Jefferson Square, as Brad had mentioned. That's really our intention, really to pull over the programming that is very consistent with Jefferson Square, right down to the characteristic of the buildings as well. I'll just go through real briefly, don't want to be too redundant with Brad's work, but it is currently zoned Office General, and there's a little portion zoned RS8, that little finger goes down to Rushwood Drive. That'll be our access point to this piece of property. And as mentioned, the 2035 plan calls out the business park, and we are consistent with the 2035 plan, so that is a positive, and we're positive in that direction. As far as utilities, all the utilities will be coming from Rushwood Drive up into the property, and our primary access point will be Rushwood Drive as well. Adjacent uses, as Brad mentioned, to the north is the Jefferson Square Office Park, to the west, or to the west is a current commercial building as well. And then there's single-family residential to the south, and then there's an apartment complex to the east. Overall, the site plan has 6 buildings, as Brad mentioned. We have 2 areas of formal open space associated with the development. All the development will be inward-facing towards the parking lot. The parking was required to have 44 spaces. We're able to meet that expectation. Our 43 spaces, we provided 44. As well as a formal open space, and it is definitely 2 different size buildings, one being 1,900 square feet approximately, and 2 being 2,500 square feet approximately. And there's a 42-foot front setback, a 10-foot side setback, and a 20-foot rear setback within that area. As Brad mentioned, the buffers that we're asking for is a Type B buffer along the residential to the south, and then where the apartments are, a Type A buffer to the east. The key working with Mr. Belt on this was really about the uses. We wanted to make sure that the uses were consistent with both Jefferson Square and also with the neighborhood. We didn't want to encourage any kind of uses that are after-hour uses. So we spent time to walk through all the different approved uses in commercial zones and really narrowed that down to what we felt like was very consistent with the expectations for the development, and really trying to be sensitive to the adjacent neighborhood as well as being sensitive to the Jefferson Square development. As I mentioned, it's a brief presentation. I'm here for any questions you may have regarding the project. Architecturally, just want to let you know that we are going exactly the same architecture as at Jefferson Square, all masonry buildings, all single-story buildings, and they'll not exceed 25 feet, so we wanted to be consistent, again, with character that's already being presented at Jefferson Square. So if you have any questions, I'm available right now to answer any questions you may have.
You'll have a chance to speak in the public hearing. Any questions from the commission associated with Mr. Roundtree at this point?
I have one question.
Sure.
What was the thought process on connecting Rushwood Drive as the entrance instead of connecting to Jefferson Square?
There's a lot of history behind that, and I'd probably like to ask Mr. Bell to kind of communicate towards that, because I don't know exactly all the different parameters, but I know it was something that was recommended from the planning staff, and that goes back to some history. So he's going to speak during the public component, and he'll answer that question.
What about the sign in the residential area?
What's that, Sean?
The 16-foot sign?
Yeah, the sign, all we can have is an entrance sign. We can't have a traditional monolithic sign at that location.
Any other questions for Mr. Roundtree at this time? Okay, thank you, Clyde.
Welcome.
All right. We will open the public hearing. Just a reminder, if you'll give your name and address. And so, Mr. Belt, is this part of the public hearing, or are you speaking as the applicant? So, because I'm trying to figure out.
When I wanted to say something, I was going to address the question that was asked there a moment ago.
Okay. The only reason why I asked that is
Should I wait?
The applicant would have more time to make their presentation if you wanted to speak as the applicant, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I was thinking I was speaking as the applicant.
Okay.
But
All right.
it's been a long time since I've been to a public hearing,
All right.
so I'm
Okay.
trying to figure out where I fit.
Thank you. Go
May I
ahead.
speak as
Chair
an applicant?
Halliburton, perhaps Mr. Belt, if he wants to respond to the question, he can, then perhaps reserve the rest of his time to respond to further questions that may be raised during the public hearing if Mr. Belt desires
Yes,
to.
and the first question, if I understood it, related to why coming off Rushwood. Was that the first question?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
Okay, yes. So this actually, this is my third time around with this project. And if I might give you a bit of history, is it possible to get that back on there where we can look at the site plan just a moment?
Cable department can go to my computer if it's easiest.
Because a picture's worth a lot of words. And yes, so where the driveway is there, the piece of property where the offices are was 1.3 acres and was known as 127 Rushwood. In 1952, Brother Roy Anderson, who was a Baptist preacher here, the church bought that land and built a church back there. And what you're looking at there is the driveway that was put in place 72 years ago where the church was. And the people back then got access to the church driving that way. To the left of that is a small house that's 123 Rushwood. When they approached me that their church had outgrown their property in 2007 and they were considering moving, they approached me. The pastor then was Steve Goforth, and he knew I was developing Jefferson Square. I developed the last portions of Jefferson Square and Belmont Park, and he asked if I would have an interest in that. So I went to see Joseph Adelot, who was the city planner then, to see what their thoughts would be, because this actually is cut out of what was that farm where Jefferson Square is. It was a part of it. And it was zoned for apartments, RM16. It could hold 20 townhouses. And when I talked with him, and I didn't want to build the townhouses, I built lots of hundreds of townhouses, but I didn't want to build them here. But he concurred with me that if we zoned that, there was a new zoning. It had just started called OG, Office General. A little different than CH Commercial Highway. Commercial Highway, you could have retail in it. OG was just for offices. It didn't involve retail. And so he recommended that I consider getting this rezoned to OG because all we wanted was offices. And at that time, we thought we were going to be able to get access through Jefferson Square. So the driveway at that time didn't come up, but that driveway's been there 72 years. When the church bought 123 Rushwood, that's what they used for their Sunday school rooms. So the church used the house for the Sunday school rooms and used the other for the assembly. And so I brought this through in 2015 and got it rezoned. I brought it through in 2019 and had a site plan approved, this exact same site plan, except it was going through Jefferson Square. And at the time, it got approved. But something else happened in 2019, and it was called COVID. And it just kind of stopped everybody in their tracks a little bit that we didn't know what to do. So I held up on developing it for 3 years. In 2022, I brought it back, took it through again, and got it approved again. So I was issued a grading permit, and I took the church building down. After the church moved out, for 14 years, I rented the little building to 2 different churches over a 14-year period, never had a vacancy. And but when they left, we took the building down. But when it came time for me to get the building permit, there was some conflict because there was some question of whether I really could have the right to use that or not. And so I was not issued my building permit. I think perhaps maybe Matthew or someone can answer, but 2 years and 15 months later, I was approached for the city that if I would consider using that driveway that had been for the church there, that perhaps they could work with me to get this plan to work. And that's when we have redone it, and we're presenting it, and we're here with it now.
I can jump in and give a little further context, Mr. Belt.
Sir? Yeah.
Mr. Belt, I could give a little more further context, perhaps, to
Yes.
what Mr. Belt raised about the access on Jefferson Square versus this driveway. There has been, I don't know exactly how long, but several years of litigation between Mr. Belt, the city, and the Owners Association of Jefferson Square regarding the rights to access.
Not the Owners Association, an
I'm sorry.
individual owner, not the
Correct.
Owners Association.
I apologize. Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Regarding the ability of this parcel to access through Jefferson Square or not, that litigation, as I understand it, is ongoing. There are some appeals that are being pursued right now, but the hope is that by taking access off of Rushwood rather than through Jefferson Square, that might hopefully make some of that litigation moot. So there's no need to further pursue that. So the reason, ultimately to answer the question, the reason for the access through the driveway is because there is a question of the entitlement to access through Jefferson Square.
Thank you, Mr. Belt.
Thank you. And currently, Belmont Park and Jefferson Square are wonderful locations for offices, and for the last 15 years have experienced 95% occupancy. So there's a great need. There's a lot of attorneys, financial planners, accountants, small businesses, many of them owner-occupied, that are looking for spaces where they can actually, hopefully, own their own properties. Any other question?
I think we're
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. All right. We will now officially open the public hearing. Again, if you will state your name and your address, anyone that would like to speak for or against this application, and just a reminder of the 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Dr. Billy McElrath. I live at 115 Rushwood Drive. I want to speak directly to the current safety, traffic, and infrastructure realities of Rushwood Drive as it exists today. Rushwood is already the primary feeder road for our neighborhood to Church Street. During peak hours, traffic routinely backs up and comes to a complete standstill as residents wait to turn. Outside of peak hours, traffic remains constant. It is not a low-volume residential street at any time of the day. This congestion is further compounded by several existing factors. Bellwood Elementary's morning and afternoon drop-off occurs at the end of Rushwood, with vehicles lining the road and adding to already heavy traffic as they come out towards Church. When trains block the crossing at Middle Tennessee Boulevard and Church Street, drivers divert through Rushwood to bypass the blockage, which happens a lot. Additionally, when incidents occur on Church Street, also happens a lot, traffic is redirected through our neighborhood, placing even more strain on an already overburdened road. Just a few doors down from this proposed development are both an apartment complex and a mobile home community, creating a consistent and significant pedestrian presence. Children regularly walk and wait for school buses, and residents walk along the roadway itself. These are 4 doors down from where this is proposed to go. Over 30 kids get on and off this school bus 4 doors down from where this is proposed to go. No sidewalks. There are no sidewalks because this is a 1950s community. Pedestrians are forced into the street while vehicles navigate congestion, stop traffic, and limited visibility. This is already a safety concern under current conditions. In addition to traffic and safety concerns, the road itself is beginning to show signs of wear. There are visible cracks, and previous utility work resulted in patching that has not held up well. They mentioned using Rushwood for all their utilities. It's a 1950s utility with sewer and plumbing. It's not going to hold up. It's already not holding up. This raises concerns about the road's ability to withstand additional traffic while further deterioration. The construction phase alone would also introduce significant heavy traffic with dump trucks, commercial haulers. Rushwood is not built to accommodate that type of load. An additional heavy vehicle use will likely accelerate deterioration on the roadway and further compromise its integrity and safety. It is also important to note that alternative access exists. This property owner has access from the rear of the property, which already commercially zoned. Routing access from that side would avoid placing additional burden on a residential street that is already operating beyond its intended capacity. Rushwood is part of one of the older established neighborhoods in Murfreesboro. It was not designed or
And
built
we've got 30 seconds.
to handle traffic volumes, and it is already functioning at or beyond its limits in terms of both safety and infrastructure. Introducing commercial access through Rushwood would not simply add traffic, it would intensify existing congestion, increase risks to pedestrians, and further strain infrastructure as it already shows signs of failure.
Thank you.
My name is Terry DeHoff. I live at 1106 Houston Drive, which is the other end of Rushwood. You don't know, Rushwood changes names about halfway down to Houston Drive. And she is correct. This area has 510 residential units total, with 255 being houses. There's 2 apartment complexes in this area, with Roosevelt having 21, Bellwood Terrace having 60, and the trailer park has 74 trailers at it presently. Bellwood Terrace and the trailer park only have Rushwood as their entrance and exit to their homes, and at that location is where there are between 28 and 30 students that are picked up and dropped off by a school bus that has nothing to do with Bellwood Discovery School, which is on the other end of Rushwood, where they have 200 plus students, and because that is a magnet school, all of those students do not have bus service, and they have to be dropped off by car in carpool lines that line up on Houston Drive, which is Rushwood, and on Kirkwood, which is also the cut-through when the trains, CSX trains, of which there are 12 to 14 every day that make that per CSS, and they do have over approximately 200 cars on those trains each time those 12 to 14 trains make that run, and the people use Kirkwood to cut down to beat the trains, which then they have to take Rushwood to get back onto Church Street. I personally try not to walk that area during that time, as I have almost been hit twice by cars making that run to beat the trains. Additionally, Rushwood does not have any curbs, no curbs, and there are no sidewalks in the entire Bellwood subdivision. I wonder also why we could not use the other entrances and exits to that property. And there are lots of the people in that on the Rushwood end, not as much on the Houston Drive end because our driveways are longer, but the driveways on the Rushwood end have short driveways, and so they're often have cars that are parked on the street, which then narrows that lane down from not being a two-way traffic, but a single lane traffic down the center of Rushwood. Those businesses that I'm sure those could be some great businesses in there, but the ones that he did mention, though they are not retail businesses, they will have people coming to them. If it is gym facilities, they will have people coming. The CPAs will be having people coming. The financial planners will be having people coming. I saw a flower shop in there that would have people coming. They will still have clients coming in and out of that same area, which is right where the school bus stops and unloads students every day. I'm also wondering that if we have had the luxury of having a traffic survey done in that area, that some of the other places have done, so that we could possibly see what the load of traffic is in that area. I know this area very well because I have lived there, and also I have worked this neighborhood twice for the U.S. Census and once for a crime survey.
Thank you.
And I am opposed to it.
Good evening. My name is Terrence Spivey. I live 2 houses over from where they want to put the road at. And he actually owns the house next to the road. So if they pass it through in the future, what's going to happen with that house? Would I have a building next to my house, an office next to my house? And then like, with the kids and stuff there, that I've been there for over 20 years. And that train do blocks the tracks. I work for Adient, and there's people late for work every day because the train blocked the tracks, and they can't get to the cross over the Church Street. And then with the utilities running off of Rushwood, I mean, we got low water pressure now. So what is that going to do for, in the sewer and all of that? That's going to put a heavier impact on us. And then you got a lot of elderly people. Has anyone done any studies for the traffic for emergency services getting to the elderly people in that neighborhood, or police getting to if something was to happen, if the traffic was to bag up? Has anyone done a traffic? And like the one lady said, our driveways are short. And like, if my daughter come visit, she has to park on the street. So that's taking it down to 1 lane. So it's a very congested area. You know, it's a cut through for everybody. And just, if you already on this part, why not just, and it's already got a parking lot and everything, just go across there and go out through Church Street side. You know, but farther is just letting the road come on to Rushwood. I see it being a big problem. And it was a church back there, but it wasn't like, at any given time, you probably see 10, 15 cars. It's a small community church. When Mr. Goforth had the church.
Got 30 seconds, Mr. Spivey.
It was a small community church. Then when the Hispanic people had the church, it was small. It wasn't like you going to a mega church or nothing like it. So it wasn't like a lot of traffic.
Thank you, Mr. Spivey.
Right,
appreciate it.
My name's Paul DeHoff. I live at 1106 Houston Drive on the other end. I'd like to address the Discovery School down there. It's about 400 students, just a little less than that. They start at 6 o'clock in the morning with before school daycare, and they end at 6 o'clock in the evening with after school daycare. There are no buses that run for any of these students because it's a magnet school. It's all individual car delivery and car pickup. That's two major parts of the day. They go all up Walton Drive, they go up Houston Drive, they sometimes go almost all the way to Rushwood itself. And they start the school at 7:45 in the morning, and they finish the school at 2:45 in the afternoon. And so during those periods, you've got cars backed up, and there's sometimes a little bit of a war with people blocking driveways as they're doing that, because they're trying to get in and out of houses at the same time. So they try to emphasize don't block the driveways. The school buses which come along there, I've actually counted 28 to 30 students getting on the school bus there right at Rushwood Drive. They're walking in the street. They're walking because there are no sidewalks and no curbs. And so the increased traffic there is a problem, and the trains coming through. I've actually talked with the railway people down on West Main, and he said they routinely run 200 rail cars on a train, between 100 and 200, but it's not uncommon for them to have 200. And that blocks Middle Tennessee Boulevard completely when it does. So people do make that run around, and it'll back Rushwood all the way up to Kirkwood Drive, and then all the way halfway down Kirkwood Drive to Middle Tennessee Boulevard, with those cars trying to get out to go around the train. What they do, they go out on Church Street, make a left, and then go over the bridge to the rail to the light, and go out that way. But it would seem that increased traffic there with 75 trailers and hundreds of people in apartments, that increased traffic is not going to be a benefit to the area, and they need to find another route out, and it would be good for them to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeHaw.
My name is Annette Gooch. I live at 118 Rushwood. I think the traffic's going to be too bad. I can barely get out of my driveway now. I don't have my mailbox ran over 3 times. I'm 65 years old. I can barely see. I mean, like they said, the driveways are short. You got to sit there maybe 5 or 10 minutes before you can even get out your own driveway. And another problem going to be those kids. I don't have kids because I'm out. But those kids, the traffic is too bad over there. And I don't understand why he's doing this. I'm just saying what's from my heart, because you got money. These people over here, we don't work hard for these houses and stuff over there. Then our taxes going to go up. I mean, I'm 65 years old. I can't work another job for 40 more years. And it's going to raise all my stuff up over there. I live by myself. And I don't think it's fair for him to do that. Because he can find another route, like they said. They can go out Church Street and go into Rushwood. And it's not all about, it's the old people and the children. They can barely go have a place to play at now. They live in trailers. They live in apartment complexes. I was blessed to get a house.
Ms. Gooch, if you would address your comments to us, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, I am. I'm just looking at, I'm not really looking at, I'm just saying, I don't think it's right. I think he needs to find another way, like everybody else is saying, to use Church Street instead of having Rushwood. And the roads are raggedy over there. I don't think it's fair. That's all I got to say. And I hope y'all don't pass that.
Thank you, Ms. Gooch. Anyone else want to speak for or against?
Chad Molitor, 805 South Church Street. My son and I own the large building in Jefferson Square that's directly adjacent to the 1.3 acres that we're talking about. And my colleagues and I have been in there over 25 years, and I've spoken with the neighbors there in Jefferson Square and my colleagues, and we're in support of Mr. Belt being able to rezone and being able to access through that same Rushwood driveway that's been there, access to that for 70 years. We've looked at the options of going through Jefferson Square, and there's no way that It's already congested there. There's no way that that could work with the single narrow entrance and long narrow parking lot. So that's not an option for Mr. Belt. And I can't blame him. If I own that property, I would want a return on my investment as well. And I think that you make valid points too, everybody that's been up here. But I think Mr. Belt's going to want to develop that in some way or another for a return on his investment. And if we look forward in time, I believe that if he's able to build this office complex, that would be a good thing for all the neighbors. If he's not able to do that, I expect the next thing, and I'm just guessing now, would be residential apartment type condo, multifamily, and we have both of those already adjacent to Jefferson Square. We have Belmont Office Complex on one side. We've got 21 units in Jefferson Square, and we have we know what to expect from those people. They go home at 5 o'clock, things get quiet, not much trouble over the 25 years from them. And then on the other end of the complex, we have some apartments that have been there a long time. And there's some really good people in there. I've met some of them. Unfortunately, there's some bad apples in there as well, and they've caused us some trouble through the years. We've been broken into 2 different times. People cut through the parking lot and sometimes do laps around our building for exercise. And many of them look to be good, upstanding citizens, but occasionally we'll have some pretty rough folks doing that. And when people pull up to meet with us in our building and somebody's walking across our sidewalk that is looking
Mr. Mueller,
really
you
rough,
got 30 seconds.
that's not good for our setup there. The other thing is we have the apartments there, and we've got these 2 choices, and I think that all of us neighbors would be better off if we had if we had the office buildings there, not the apartments. We've had both, and there's a clear difference. I believe they're going to have one or the other, and if we knock this down and he doesn't get approved, I don't think the alternative is going to be very good for anybody.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak for or against this application? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing, and we will address some of the questions that were brought up. Do you want me to go through my list and then you?
So I think I heard most of the questions were related to traffic, and I think probably the thing to do would be for Mr. Belt's engineer to address Mr. McGuire, are you here representing? Okay, would be for Mr. Roundtree to address those questions. But then also, of course, we have Ms. Knoll, the engineer from the planning department, as well as Mr. Smith and Mr. Fasig, who just spent an hour and a half talking to y'all about traffic and transportation earlier this evening. So really the only other questions that I heard that were not traffic related were Mr. Spivey asked what would happen to 123 Rushwood, which I believe was the house right next door to him. Mr. Belt owns that house. He is only requesting the rezone of a sliver of that property, and the remaining portion of that property where the house is located adjacent to Mr. Spivey's property would remain zoned RS8, single-family residential. So the only change to that property is where the driveway would be located on the opposite side of that property from Mr. Spivey. Ms. Gooch mentioned about taxes going up. I don't know that the development of this property, I'm not a property appraiser. I don't know that anybody here is a property appraiser or works for the assessor's office, but I don't know that there would be anything to substantiate the residents' taxes going up on account of this development. At least nothing that I could substantiate it one way or the other.
So besides traffic, the other things that I heard were utilities off of Rushwood being old. I don't know that anybody here could speak to that. Is there anyone here that could speak to that?
The only person that I know would be our former Water Resources Director, who is now our city manager.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking.
Can you create a PowerPoint?
Well, I could probably pull up the GIS. I suspect, yes, that this infrastructure is old. However, our construction crew at Water Resources Operational Maintenance, they have an asset management program. They do prioritize, the criticality of failure and the consequence of failure, and if these utilities need to be replaced, they can be replaced. But as far as I would address this body, they're in good working order currently.
Okay.
We had somebody comment about the condition of the roads as
Yeah.
well. Can we see where, I don't think we have anybody in the crew to get this either.
I can pull up Google Street View if you'd like.
Yeah, we have all of our road resurfacing and all that on a cycle, so where are we at with that specific part of town?
I don't know for certain, and I don't know that Mr. Fasig or Mr. Smith have researched that.
Okay.
But this is a substandard roadway. As it was mentioned, it was built quite a while ago. And by substandard, I mean that it's not worthy of travel. It's that it doesn't meet our current standards, as numerous streets throughout the city that were built prior to our current standards going into effect are in the same boat. But I can go ahead and pull up the street view, and y'all can see exactly what it looks like. So you can see it is curb and gutter. There is no sidewalk on either side, but it is curb and gutter. The width of the street of the actual roadway, I can give you an approximate measurement, is about 1/100th of a mile.
Fantastic.
It's the width of the roadway is about 29 or 30 feet, which I don't recollect I believe this is a residential collector or a community collector, what the pavement width would normally be for that roadway cross-section. Let me double-check the roadway classification. It is classified in our major transportation plan as a residential collector.
I know that, we haven't voted or anything, so I'm talking totally hypothetical. If this was pushed to council between planning commission and council, could we have Ms. Emerson look at, they were talking about speeding and stuff like that, some kind of, not
Traffic calming?
traffic calming measure.
Like evaluate it for the city's traffic calming program?
Yeah, something, I hate the stupid speed humps, so not speed humps, but something to that effect.
And Mr. Fasig may be able to speak to what criteria he and Ms. Emerson look at when they review that.
My name is Matt Fasig. I'm the Assistant City Engineer. The traffic calming program, that's usually a community-driven desire. We usually look for buy-in and support from the community, and we systematically will place at request, and if we have enough signatures to meet that request. We can certainly explore that and follow up if that is so desired. Thank you.
So who wants to speak to the traffic piece?
I will speak on Bill Huddleston's behalf, but I think the great point was made that traffic is always a challenge that we have to face throughout the city. Based on my notes, there's a lot of circumstantial type of traffic that has a situational component, whether schools getting out, schools, getting in, going in. And so I think it has obviously there's a variable here on this road that with the Discovery School and having that be an individual pickup versus a bus stop, that obviously is putting some stress on that road at certain times. But I think we were sensitive on the front end to make sure that the uses were such that it wasn't a retail center. It's a professional office primarily, which means it'll be a very low, as far as low use type of facility. We provided 44 parking spaces. I think that speaks about probably the volume of traffic you could anticipate. It's not 100 spaces, it's not 200 spaces. So it's more of an intimate type of business park that's within the community in that area. It will serve, obviously there'll be traffic, but as was mentioned, if there's another use there, there'll be traffic, because the assumption is that it's either this or nothing. That's not the case. It'll be this or something else, and there's a really good chance that the something else, especially if it is residentially based, will be a lot more traffic and consideration as compared to an office park type of component. But Mr. Belk from the front end really wanted to make sure that the hours of operation were nothing that would go beyond 5 o'clock on a normal basis. There are some uses in there that could potentially be open a little bit later, but that was a real concern. He didn't want anything that went into the evening hours, really out of respect to the neighbors, respect for just the situation, and also for Jefferson Square, to really try to keep a consistent client base with what's already occurring over there. So if you go to Jefferson Square at 5 o'clock, if we went there right now, I'm sure it'd be empty for the most part. So that was really a consideration from the front end, knowing Rushwood had some limitations, knowing that we're going to have access through Rushwood. We wanted to be sensitive to the uses and make sure we didn't overdevelop the property and make sure we had adequate parking, but knowing full well it's not retail. We don't anticipate it being a thoroughfare.
Any other questions?
If this were to be voted down, you said, there's something that's going to go there. So what would he have the right to do, just granted based on the current zoning? Would it also allow the use of that collector driveway there off that collector street?
I think I'll answer that, Mr. Prince. Mr. Belt was correct in saying that the property was rezoned about 10, 12 years ago to Office General. He did have an approved site plan for like he said, basically an identical office complex to what is proposed right here. I think he actually got the site plan approved twice. Believe started moving some dirt out there, and then that's when some of the proceedings that Mr. Tully mentioned began. And so really the main difference between what he had approved under the existing Office General zoning and what he is proposing now is the access, because as Mr. Tully mentioned, there's some question about his ability to access through Jefferson Square. And so he is requesting the rezoning in order to gain access to Rushwood Drive. But I think the layout of the buildings, the square footage is very, very, very similar to what was previously approved under the existing OG zoning. Right now the property is landlocked. And so if you can't have access to Jefferson Square, which, as I mentioned, is still in question, and he can't have access to Rushwood Drive, at this point, I don't know what his options would be to gain access to that property.
He doesn't have the ability by right to use that driveway.
That's correct. That's correct. So as a part of his proposed office development, even though there was an existing driveway there, that driveway was established for the church. The church was demolished. It's no longer there. As he looks to redevelop this property, then we advised him that that driveway would need to be subdivided off of the residential lot that was used in conjunction with the church, and then added to this property, but that it also would have to be rezoned as well, since it would be accessory to the proposed commercial use.
Was there not an easement already put in place or something from Jefferson Square to allow? Because how did this end up?
So that was the subject of the litigation, and I should clarify that the ability for this parcel to access Jefferson Square is not just in question. The trial court actually issued a motion for summary judgment ruling that there was no entitlement to access through Jefferson Square, period, full stop. There is no ability to access through Jefferson Square. That ruling is being appealed, but just looking at the statistics in Tennessee courts of appeal, it's unlikely that that'll be overturned. So as of right now, the court has adjudicated that there is no right to access through Jefferson Square. So it's not just in question, it has been adjudicated. So this would be the only access. I suppose, Mr. Blomley, if Mr. Belt decided to, if he were to demolish that house and then replat to combine that parcel into this parcel, I assume he could take access then through Rushwood. But I don't know exactly what that process would look like.
I think the rezoning of it to a like zoning with the bulk of the property would be required.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like Mr. Belt, the reason why this application is presented the way it is because he wants to try and maintain that residential house as a residential house. But it sounds like he would have the ability, perhaps, it would require some approval, but he would have the ability to demolish that house and then rezone that into the same kind of Office General zoning classification, combine it with this parcel, and then take access off Rushwood just the same. And then you'd have perhaps office space on Rushwood.
We were careful to only recommend to Mr. Belt that the portion where the driveway would be located would be what would be included in the rezoning request, so as to have as minimal impact on the character of the neighborhood. Obviously, we know that it would add traffic to Rushwood Drive. There's no doubt about that. But what we did not want to have happen would be to have actual commercial uses front on Rushwood Drive. We wanted it to be tucked in behind the houses as opposed to creating a commercial landscape along Rushwood Drive.
Bit of a mess.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It is.
I think that's a technical planning term, I think.
All right. Any other questions from the Planning Commission for the applicant or for staff?
When you're talking about commercial on Rushwood, explain that. I mean, are you talking about the 123 address that's there now, the existing residence?
Yeah, Mr. Belt owns that property, and so what he proposes to do would be to subdivide that lot, and that lot has for years been associated with the church that was behind it. I think Mr. Belt mentioned classrooms. I think it may have been a parsonage as well. So the church gained its access through that residential property at 123. If this rezoning were approved, he would re-subdivide those two parcels to carve off the 30 or so foot strip along the east side of 123 and add it to the lot in the back. The balance of 123 would remain zoned RS8 and would be allowed to continue with a single-family residential home on it. The only portion of commercially zoned property that would touch Rushwood Drive would just be the flagpole that would reach out and touch that would contain the driveway back up to the offices.
May I make a comment? Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just thinking, how big is this lot?
The entire request?
Yes.
It's so the back portion that's already zoned OG is 1.3 acres, and the little flagpole would be 0.07 acres. So 1.37 acres total.
This access point in question here was the ingress egress for the church for a number of years already, right?
That's correct.
Mr. John's point. 123 Rushwood. If he were to demolish it, keep the commercial how it's shown, maybe center up the entrance in the middle of that, property. I just don't see how commercial ends up on Rushwood.
No, there would
just be the entrance, and that's
right. There is no commercial entitlement to 123 currently, nor would there be any commercial entitlement to it, except for the little appendage that would stick down to Rushwood, and that's on the far eastern side of that parcel.
But I'm saying if we don't agree to that, if we vote that down and he comes and, I'll just tell you where I'm at. I'm good with commercial there. I don't like the idea of a commercial ramp going in between two single-family lots. I don't think that makes much sense. I think if you can't come off of Jefferson, the only thing I would suggest is maybe demolish the house like you had suggested and center up the ramp, center up the drive there, and that would be it.
If I understood correctly earlier, if Mr. Belt did that, he would probably ask for rezoning of 123 and possibly tear the house down and put some type of commercial building facing Rushwood that would put the commercial on Rushwood.
We would still have to approve the site plan for that, though, right?
True. Well, but if he backed up and punted, that may be what he would do.
The balance of 123 has not been included in the advertised public hearing, so at this point, it could not be included in this request. If I hear what Mr. Carroll's saying, I think he's talking about basically putting the driveway through the middle and there being nothing on either side of that driveway, just green space.
Correct.
I think
buffers on each side of the entrance road going into the back piece of property, and that's it.
I think, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Belt, but he owns that house, and I think he has a family member that lives in it right now. I don't think it's his desire to tear down that existing house.
I understand. Yep. How it currently is drawn today, I'm a no. I just don't think it makes sense. That's about the only way I would approve it, is with that house getting demolished. Or can you, I know you said Jefferson is a no-go, but what about the property on the west side, the existing commercial piece? Can you come off of that?
I think he would have to try to obtain
diligence on his part.
Obtain an access easement through that property.
Those are probably the only two ways that I would, to me, would be able to pass it if it came back. Would come through the east, the west, or right to the middle of the existing 123.
Let's think about traffic patterns with this lot. It seems to be the biggest traffic issues are at school time. There's traffic issues on that road constantly, but the biggest traffic issues are at school time. I drive this road pretty often. This office complex is not going to have school time traffic.
Right.
Most likely, it's going to have 9 o'clock traffic and 5 o'clock traffic, and like everybody says, the two complexes north of it, 5 o'clock are pretty much emptied out. So we're not talking about adding on to bad school traffic. So just 2 cents.
And I understand what you're saying, Tristan, about making sense is be commercial and put a buffer in it. I think, irrespective of whether Mr. Belt wants to keep this house or not, he's doing his best to make sure that there is no commercial zoning of any size on Rushwood so that the neighbors don't feel like that they're getting encroached upon on that street in and of itself. So just rezoning the strip to get in
Right.
is all that he's asking for.
Yeah. Anybody else got any opinions on it? I mean, I think it needs to be commercial. It's just how do you make it work? I don't know.
Yeah, it needs to be commercial. That's the commercial's the right usage.
I mean, apartments aren't going there.
And this is devil's advocate stuff. Even if you could go through Jefferson Square, I actually do some business with some people in that complex. It's hard to get out of that Church Street entrance right there. At least going down Rushwood, you can go back towards Tennessee or back towards Church, instead of just having to worry about going left or right on Church Street.
I mean,
I agree with Tristan. Ken, what do you think?
I mean, I'm for it from the standpoint that I think this is the best compromise all the way around. I mean, it was already zoned Office General years back. He does not have access. He's going to have access to this. And I think what he's trying to do is limit the fact that there will be no commercial other than this roadway on Rushwood.
And it was already a commercial roadway for a church.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree with Ken.
Yeah.
So it's all up to Kelly.
So I think somebody needs to make, I mean, I don't know that the chair needs to make a motion. I think somebody needs to make a motion and then we see where it falls.
You want to defer?
No.
Just roll with it?
Yeah, I mean.
Has anyone approached the folks that own 811, I guess that's South Church, to access out? That would be, I guess, the west side.
I'm sorry. No, Mr. Chairman, would it be okay if Mr. Belt answers that
Yes.
question? I don't know the answer to it.
You want to come to the podium, Mr. Belt?
Who's the property owner right there? If you can click on that.
Ween 6 Trio
Ween
LLC.
6 Trio.
LLC.
Mr. Belt, have you talked with anybody at Ween 6 Trio about access through their property, which it's 811, 813, 1815 South Church?
No, I haven't. I believe that property has just recently sold, has new tenants. Farm Credit Services has moved out of there. Are you talking about where the Farm Credit, no, what was that?
Behind Comas.
I'm sorry? Yeah. That is just sold, and I think Griggs and Mahoney has just moved in there. I actually went back there and looked because they have some property where if you had access there, you could get a couple of more offices and it not take away from anything because it's right behind Jefferson Square. But I have not talked to anyone. I knew it, and I think it just recently, in the last 30 or 60 days, changed hands. The other group moved out about 3 or 4 months ago, but I have not talked to them.
Okay, thank you.
I'd be glad to, but,
Well,
yeah, but.
All right, are there further questions for Mr. Belt?
so what it sounds like the two options is somebody runs a motion, one way or the other.
Yes.
Or we defer, let's Mr. Belt talk to this property owner and then come back and re-vote on this once he's talked to the property owner. So those are our three options. Run with the motion, one way or the other, or defer and let him talk to that property owner to gain access to Church Street?
I'm going to make a motion for Mr. Belt to defer until he can talk with the property owners to see if they'd be interested in giving you access or even selling you additional property.
Good pun.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Nay. All right, Mr. Belt. Thank you. All right. That is the end of that application, and it will be deferred until he can figure out if he can get access through another lot. So the next item on our agenda is a zoning application to amend the existing PRD zoning for approximately 37.87 acres located along Lascassas Pike. Laurelstone PRD. Clayton Properties is the applicant. Ms. Smith.
Good evening, Chair and Commission. I'm just trying to get to the page on our agenda sheet.
Hey, Holly, hold on just a second. If y'all could shut that back door. Yeah, thank you. All right, go ahead.
As you can see on the above screen, the next project that we have for zoning application is a zoning amendment. The existing area is located here off of Lascassas Pike, is along the easterly boundary. Phase 1 of the original Laurelstone project has already been constructed, and they're looking at finishing up the remainder of the project site, but have requested basically not continuing with the cabana, the villas, and the cottage type product type, but having the remainder of the entirety of the project be single-family detached homes. So as you're looking at the project and kind of comparing the two together, the approved project has a total of 186 residential units. 184 is the proposal, and they would go from only keeping the 30 villa units, the 23 cottage units, which are townhomes, and then having 99 41-foot wide single-family lots that are on the easterly side of Bushman Creek, and then on the westerly side of Bushman Creek would be 52-foot wide lots with 32 single-family detached. And the main difference in those lot sizes is the previously approved, currently approved, is 6,500 square foot single-family lots. Those new lots would be 5,330 square foot minimums for the 41-foot wide lots and 6,760 square feet for the 52-foot wide lots. As we're looking at the particular projects, there are kind of a couple of key pages we always take a look at. One is our general plan, which in looking at this particular property, is designated as AUR. Looking at those AUR policies that are in place today, it is consistent with those particular uses. There was a neighborhood meeting for the project that was very well attended by mostly the existing residents of the Laurelstone project that has been built. And as they were talking about it, and the developers will probably come up and talk a little bit more about their amenity package. That's the biggest thing that they wanted to make sure that they had input on, and it's included in your staff program book, but not necessarily in the staff report, about the cabana pool amenity package area. But the other thing, so as you're looking at, here's that AUR designation for the entirety of the lot, and again, the balance would be all single-family residential. They do have a phasing plan in the program book that, so the original program book, let me drop to a different page. There we go. So the original layout, as you can see here, all the single-family face along Las Casas Pike, where the front doors are facing Las Casas, or the front doors are facing Old Pitts Lane with alleyways in the back. And then all the kind of taupe color buildings were going to be townhomes, and the pink were going to be additional duplex units. So with the new proposed amendment, you don't have any more of those duplex or townhome units, but all of these units are your 42-foot wide lots. And here on Las Casas, you no longer have front doors accessing the front, but a landscape buffer along that frontage road. And then the same thing here, there's landscaping on the back side, and those houses will face inward. But part of their phasing, there's that second section that has really the little bit larger lots. And then of other note is here is your Bushman Creek. As staff looked at the project, it's actually in our greenways, blueways, bikeways plan as a future connection further up to Stones River, further to the north. So as we talk to the applicant, because most of those areas are in the floodway, they have agreed to dedicate to the city those areas within the floodway, which will allow the city, when we are ready in our long-range plan, to build out those greenways, to have the land, but then be able to flex which side of the creek and where the crossings are for pedestrian bridges and the like for that particular project. And last but not least, before we get into the presentation, this is the screenshot that the applicant will be going through a little bit more on the amenity package. So last thing, with that AUR, the density for it is 3.83 units to the acre. This particular project in the new layout is actually within those limits of the AUR zone district. And so we do have a couple of modifications that are requested in the staff report for the program book that I believe the applicant is up for, a couple of tweaks to the architecture for some of those side and enhanced elevation sections, and then really just some kind of clarifying the grammatical issues, and they do not have any exceptions that they're requesting with this program book. So with that, I'll turn it over to he's moved sides, Troy, to go over the amenities package, because I'm sure that's one of the things that the neighbors are most interested on.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Tony Wyman. I'm with Goodall Homes, Clayton Properties Group. And I just wanted my comments very brief and just provide a couple of comments related to background on the project. On the opening page of the staff report, there's a clarification I'd like to make to this that indicates that we decided to seek the PRD amendment because of different product type. We no longer offer villas or cottages. And so that was really the genesis of the switch to the single-family detached. And we have an issue on phasing. There's a reference for 3 different phases, construction phases for us. We're really looking at 2. And we'd like to do it in 1 phase, but we asked for 2, or we'll be doing it in 2 because of the permitting requirements for the bridge across Bushman Creek, going through TDEC and the like. And we didn't want to be impeded as we moved through. And then we also intended to include in the first phase the amenity center, then the amenity package, as that was a big item, certainly with the discussions that I've had with the residents. And I've been involved with them now for about 16 months, maybe a little 14 to 16 months. On how we were going to handle the amenities. And this project kind of, it went through the whole COVID deal, and it just kind of languished and sat there, and it hit my desk, and I went, well, why aren't we doing anything with this? And so I made contact with the HOA, and we started working on resurrecting the project and worked very closely with them. It's been a very good relationship to see what we could do to bring this back to fruition and get the project built out and turn the HOA over to them and the management so they control their own destiny. And so that brought us just to where we are today. The other clarification that I'd like to make is related to the pool cabana. Now, there's a lot of different terminology used: cabana, clubhouse. There's several different ways to put it. And what we had here, what came loud and clear in dealing with the residents, was they wanted a small meeting area. It didn't have to be, a 9,000 square foot meeting area, but they wanted somewhere that they could go meet. They could have small groups. They could have a small party. And so we came up with a design with them. I think you guys were at the meetings. There was discussion of about a 300 square foot area, and we thought that's probably not big enough. And we increased that to 400 square feet. And of course, that'll have countertops, and then underneath the cabinets, and it'll have a room for a refrigerator, and there'll be a sink in there so they can have small birthday parties and that sort of thing when they're using the outside pool area. And so we came up with that. That was voted on through a survey that we sent out discreetly to all of the residents, and so they had an opportunity to vote and provide their input. And that's where we came up with the amenity package. The only difference from what you're seeing on your package on the amenities is we made a representation to one of the property owners adjacent to the pool that we would try and give her as much privacy as we could. And I think you were at that meeting as well. So what I'm getting at is that pool may flip with the cabana area just to give her more distance and separation. So I just wanted to lay that out there for you so that we didn't run into a whole bunch of problems later on down the road. And I think lastly, the amenities that I described earlier that are included in the package, and they will be included in the updated book. We talked about that earlier. Has been approved by the association. They had significant input in that. We had multiple meetings on it, and I'm very appreciative of their candid input that they had, and it was very direct at times. And so that's been a favorable experience, rejuvenating the project and breathing life back into it and moving it forward to this point. And I'll just keep my comments brief at that level, and if there's any other questions that you folks might have for me, I'd be more than happy to address them. We have our engineer here tonight as well, who can address any comments you may have or questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. We will now open the public hearing associated with this application. Anyone would like to speak for or against this application?
Good evening, Chairman and Public Planning Commission. I spoke previously about a month ago.
State your name and your address.
I'm sorry. My name is Terry Lynn Gianola. I live at 2307 Laurelstone Drive, and I am part of the Laurelstone community. I also am representing the Laurelstone community grouping that we have. We have always had meetings where we have a full discussion. Our community members are very active in communicating that, and currently we have 5 other members here tonight as well. The 53 homes that are currently built are all on Laurelstone Drive, save 3. That represents 30% of this total building development. We have a few concerns that we would like to share with you, although we are in agreement with the majority of this development plan. The first item is that we do support, and I hope that you do have your little map in front of you, because there are 2 different diversions that have been placed within the development, and that was to haul off and try to avoid traffic coming through from the Pebble Creek and Watkins Glen, which is the new development to the north, northeast of our community. Actually, it's located where it empties out directly onto Laurelstone Drive. They have put in those 2 items there to help defray some of the driving through the community, as well as placed along the larger portion road that goes into Cushing Avenue, a raised crosswalk. However, one of the concerns that we have, the 50 of us that live along that Laurelstone Drive, is that when we moved in there, if you look at that and drive down that street, you'll find that it is a residential-sized street. It probably is about 28 to 30. I measured it, but I'm no engineer. 30 feet wide. During times of anyone parking along that road, it will allow one car to go through. However, we have a little person that lived at the very end, which currently is a dead end that going into the Watkins Glen that they're building. And they quickly illustrated for us how fun that is to drive that 1/4 mile straight over to Les Casas Road. And consequently, our concern is that we now have 75 new homes being built into the Watkins Glen area. The Watkins Glen area only has 2 exits and entrances. One of them is Laurelstone Drive, and that is the one that takes them directly out to the southeast, Las Casas Road, and the majority of Murfreesboro. Whereas the other one winds its way through the Pebble Creek homes and then puts you off on Osborne Road, which is a longer way to get to the Oakland schools, middle school, high school, elementary, as well as DeJarnette and those streets. Our concern is that we probably will be needing very shortly some sort of traffic calming.
So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Since you're speaking on behalf of the association, we're 3 minutes into it, just so you know.
Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is that we would request that there be a balance of the guest parking because of that area there and the problem with that street. The guest parking is all the farthest away from our area. So we have the shorter homes, the shorter drives. We only have 2 cars that are going to fit in our drives. So we're requesting that maybe we have some sort of guest parking that would be close by. We also request that there be a temporary community walk pathway developed in the area that the developer has dedicated for the long-term greenway. While it is a long-term greenway, when we first signed up for our homes, we were promised to have a community center, a full-size community center, a walking pathway, a garden, and a dog park. So we would like to at least have a temporary pathway so that we can continue with that, at least part of that concept. And the other problem that we have is, again, I'm very glad to hear Mr. Wyman speak about the community meeting space, because that was a compromise, and I do appreciate the developer working so sincerely with us on that. And we would like to see that be expressed more clearly, because it is definitely a commitment that was made and a compromise to restore at least a portion of the amenities. And finally, I really do appreciate Mr. Blomley's effort in getting this all going. I've lived there for 3 years, and I got to tell you, we're excited that we're finally going to have more than a dirt path that was used for a garbage dump and for off-roading.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate it. Anyone else would like to speak for or against this application? All right, seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. I'll just make a comment, and maybe I'm out of turn on this, but it sounds like the applicant may need to address some of these issues if you are going to be in agreement with these comments that are made or not, because it's almost like it's a association and a developer issue with respects to the plan design, but that's just in my opinion.
We're more than happy to continue to work with the homeowner association and their membership on some of their concerns. One of the things that will be problematic is the additional parking. There wasn't any parking in that phase 1 that they're living in, as I think was pointed out. And so we've added parking throughout the subdivision to try to accommodate that, even though it's not necessarily required. But we've done that. And so we'll make every effort to continue to work with them. In terms of the hiking trail, I don't necessarily see that as a problem. I think there it's more a matter of what the section is going to look like down in the easement. We're going to dedicate that land to the city anyway. And so if there's it doesn't have to be necessarily an elaborate trail, 25 feet wide and fully paved with a 4x4 base type road or walking trail. It doesn't have to be anything like that, but they do need something done in there, and we don't have any problem with that.
So Matthew, I mean, these items that are, it doesn't sound like that some of these things are part of the application itself. I mean, are we in a position to vote on something that is hypothetical?
I think Ms. Smith can address what is still outstanding. I did want to mention a couple of things about the kind of more global traffic issues. The Watkins Glen development, which was approved several years ago and it's been under construction. I think Ms. Gianola mentioned 70-something homes. I believe that subdivision is only going to have around 40 homes. And I wanted to show you the difference in the layout of the previously approved plan. So one of the things that Ms. Gianola mentioned was the improvements that were made relative to helping moderate traffic going onto the existing Laurel Stone Drive. And so you can see on the previously approved plan a couple of major differences. One, on the stretch west of Bushman Creek, you'll see that there's no curvature in the road, and there is curvature in the road there. Also, in the previously approved plan, you can see that there is a connection here, a public roadway connection from Laurel Stone Drive south to the street that will go across the creek to Cushing Avenue. What was done there to mitigate the amount of traffic on Laurel Stone Drive was that public street was cut off right there at the amenity center so that the traffic coming from the west would be forced to go up to very close to Las Casas Pike without placing much additional traffic on the existing residents of Laurel Stone Drive. Regarding parking, one of the things that I wanted to mention, they have provided a couple of small guest parking areas, but one of the main differences between Section 1 and the future sections, the sections that they are proposing right now, is that Section 1 had much shallower driveways. I believe the front setback is 25 feet, I believe, for the existing Section 1. They are proposed, which would only accommodate 2 cars in the driveway. What they are proposing with this amendment is a 35-foot setback for all of the proposed houses. And that 35-foot setback will accommodate 4 parking spaces in the driveway. So, much like much like our standard, RS10, RS12 setbacks and requirement for 4 parking spaces in the driveway. And I think that's one of the reasons why we as staff felt comfortable with the amount of guest parking that they've provided, is because they're providing more on-site parking on the individual lots for these houses than they are on the existing houses. So, Ms. Smith, can you address the discrepancies between what the Homeowners Association is expressing concerns about and what's in the pattern book?
Yeah, so if we look at the existing pattern book, which is also included in today's packet, there is an amenity page that, say that fast, amenity or anemity? No. So here you can see a summary of all of the particular amenities on the project site. They were still very much in this same area, but it included several detention ponds, which is just green space, which most of those had to continue. But you'll see a small dog park, community garden, the clubhouse component, and then really some open space in these areas. And so here was a picture of what that anticipated clubhouse might look like, and then the backside of the clubhouse, but it did not include a pool. So they've added the pool, they've subtracted the dog park, and then clubhouse, depending on how you define it, And I didn't go into too much detail in the staff report, but in the new amenity page, it summarizes right here. And so recall that the program book, when it's adopted, everything that's listed in this program book is their zoning and what is required. So here, they specified how long this amenity building would be in size, which the prior version did not. I would say that this is probably at least the same size as what was in the prior book at 2,500 square feet. But it says cabana with 2 restrooms, large meeting space, 1 built-in kitchenette area, attached covered exterior mail kiosk, pool, and pool-related equipment. So there you can kind of see how the 2 areas change. So they are different, but they are still active recreation areas. So usually what we look at for a PRD is how many people are going to be in that PRD, and are the facilities large enough for how many people are going to be in that whole PRD. So when we're talking about 184 people, if you figure 2.5 persons per space, you're talking about maybe 450 people. This amenity center would serve 450 people. One thing that we had not known last time we were here setting the public hearing is how we wanted to treat this area here that's within their property line, and it's hard to see where those lines are. Some of them are very close to the creek on the north side, but some of it does waver back and forth. We did reach out to our Parks and Rec department because in the past, if it's in one of our long-range plans, similar to our MTP, our major transportation plan, if it says we want, these future widenings because development in total need these improvements, they did the same thing on the greenways, blueways, bikeways. The community needs those kinds of things. The difficult part is it was not in near term. In the long term, it had it as a $6.6 million project because it goes quite far north, like all the way up towards DeJarnette. And so their issue is we don't want to put, a structure in place that later on we may have to say, oh, we need it on the other side of the creek, or we need to hold it here and then shift it to the other side. So as we talked to them, they thought the most appropriate way, but we can reach back out to them as far as any temporary walking paths. We probably have not done that recently, but I think of like Oakland's Mansion and some of these other private greenways, but how does that work if the city owns the right-of-way? So staff can reach back out between now and the city council hearing to see what opportunities we may or may not have to maybe have the developer install a maybe not city standard because it would be temporary facility that serves the neighborhood. And I think that's what I maybe hear is what's being requested by the staff, and I think we can continue to work on that with that direction in place. I think that answered it.
And there has been months and months of discussion between the developer, staff, and the homeowners association on the amenity package. And so I have no doubt that there may be some tweaks, some further tweaks between now and council if you choose to move this forward to council.
All right, so you'll have an opportunity to speak at council level, and hopefully between now and then, whatever other questions that may be in your mind or the members of the association mind get worked out. So thank you, Ms. Smith. Anybody else have any questions? Sorry. Okay. All right. If there's no questions, what action do you want to take to send it to City Council?
Motion to approve, subject staff comments.
Do we want to bring up the 40-foot lots?
That's up to y'all. There's actually 41, but.
Hey, Darren. Can you come here for a second? What was y'all's, I know we talked about it in the workshop, but what was the final conclusion on like the 42-foot lots?
well, not a fan, right? And in thinking about this particular application, I think this one is so far in the process, I don't think there was fair warning given that we were really considering denying 40-foot wide lots. So I would feel it was as though it would be unfair to try to put that restriction on this particular application right now. I will say that I've asked Valerie and the water department to go out and kind of do a survey of 50-foot lots to see how many exceptions or compromises we've had to make in regards to utility separations off of driveways or off of water, sewer, other utilities getting too close together. So I'm trying to get that data assembled. So if we do come back and say it would give us a proper frame of reference or context, I think, to say if we've had this much problems with 50-foot wide lots, we need to restrict 40-foot wide lots. And I think we've given fair warning to some of these other applicants that are early at the joint conceptual workshop stage that we're considering not allowing 40-foot width.
Okay.
Does that sound fair?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have a motion, but I don't know that we have a second. Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Wright.
Aye.
Chair Halliburton.
Aye. All right, that
Thank you,
application passes. The next application is a zoning application for approximately .39 acres located along Monroe Street and East Castle Street to be rezoned from RD and CCO to PRD. Monroe Flats, PRD, and CCO. David Criswell is the applicant. Ms. Smith.
Well, good evening again. This particular project, as you can see on the screen above you, is located in a currently RD zoned area, and that RD zoning actually straddles not just these two parcels, but the parcels directly to the west of this particular area. However, when we look at the land use map does something a little bit different, and it actually splits that zone kind of future land use between SR use, which is usually single-family residential, and MH, which is our mixed-form housing, which a lot of the CCO has. And as we're looking at this particular block, you can kind of notice these are very narrow lots as far as the depth. And this particular block is different than anything that's in the SR. The SR actually tends to be far deeper lots. And so because of that context, this is where staff does believe that applying the mixed form housing designation as part of our transition policy is probably very appropriate in this particular instance. You may also recall this went way back when we had our December joint conceptual workshop. I think it might have been our second workshop that we started last year. Gave you all an opportunity and council to weigh in on Mr. Criswell's application to consider leaving the duplex on the northerly portion of the site in place, demolishing the southerly duplex that's in very rough shape to create 5 units of affordable apartment type housing. And so as we've been working through that project with the applicant, we did look at a couple of different things, but we're looking at the comparative district of RD because it is surrounded by RD-related properties. And as you can see here, there's RD-type duplexes really along all sides that are directly adjacent to the project site, and it's only when you get across the street on Monroe that you have that RS8, and to the south that RS8. But as we were looking at the program book, I have been talking to the applicant and the applicant's engineer. There were a couple of last minute things that as we were drafting the staff report that normally we would not for a commercial use provide trash services, but they would like to have city trash services. So staff reached back out to our refuse department, and they stated that they could service that, but they would need to provide appropriate space along the frontage to have 3-foot separation between the cans and a basically 3-foot pad or continuous pad to be able to place those trash cans, so when the tongs pick up those units, they go back and they land flat and they don't wibble wobble on grass and fall back into the street. So looking at this, this was maybe one of the locations staff was looking at, although talking to Mr. Cresswell, he asked whether or not it would be a problem, maybe putting the trash cans in this location and then rolling them out maybe closer to this area instead of between these. And I said as long as folks have a access way where they can come out of their unit down a pathway, solid pathway to get to their trash cans, and somebody's rolling them out to the street, I think that we have that flexibility. The main concern is that we already have 5 HVAC units here, so we want to have appropriate spacing there because the building's only 32 feet deep. And then obviously have a location for the mail kiosk that does not conflict with the trash. So those things the applicant is more than willing to work on, but those were things that with the spring break, we don't always have ways to connect to people on the same day. But the applicant does have a staff report that they'd like to present on this, but staff does supportive of the zoning request as stated in the staff report because it removes existing dilapidated duplex. It provides for a kind of a mixed form housing that looks similar to the neighborhood, meaning they made it try to look like a single family detached home in support of more affordable housing opportunities within the neighborhood. Smaller apartments, also residential use also seems to be compatible with the surrounding adjacent land uses. So with that, I will ask Mr. Roundtree, I believe, is coming up to make a presentation on the project.
Thank you, Holly. Chairman Halliburton, Planning Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about the Monroe Street Flats project. This has been a real interesting one for us, and I'll just hit the highlights because I know we're all tired. But I think it was really meeting David has been really interesting. David owns a lot of property downtown. Has been very active in redevelopment projects and kind of has taken some advantage of the CCO that I think has been an incredible tool for helping catalyze development downtown. So this is one of those projects where I think we've come up with a great solution for affordable housing, which is something that's passionate for David. He has other properties in the downtown area that he's been really successful with, helping really people who have a need for a lower income home, and he's had great retention with his tenants. This particular lot's important because there's an existing home on there now that's been a long-term tenant. And this has been a long time coming. David's wanted to get this piece of property up, updated for a while, but he's been waiting for the man who lives in the currently there. He's waiting for him to move on, and that man has moved on. So finally, he has the opportunity to create some new construction. So we feel excited about it because it is 5 units that are there's 3 2-bedroom units and 2 1-bedroom units. There's a nice little back patio area with a storage component to it. We feel like it's going to be affordable housing, but we feel like it's going to look really, really nice. David's been very committed. We've really wrestled with parking, and we moved parking to both the side of the building along Castle Street, also in the front of the building along Monroe Street. That was all for aesthetics, to make it look residential. One of the exceptions we're asking for is the city standards, a 7-foot sidewalk in front of the house. We asked for a 4-foot sidewalk because we feel like that's more appropriate for a residential look, and we'll have some stopping components, wheel stops on the parking. But all of this has been an effort to make it look very appropriate for the area. And I think if you drove by, you would have no idea that it was affordable housing. That was really the goal. Architecturally, I'm not sure if we've got architecture here shown in our detail, but I think it's in your pattern book. As was mentioned, we have one large building that is basically the 5 units. We have 2, I believe there's 2 doors that are facing this. There's 3 doors, actually 2 doors that are facing the street on Monroe, and then 1 door that faces the street on Castle. Again, that was to make sure it didn't look like a bunch of doors that are going into this building, all to kind of disguise the fact that it has a lower income affordable housing component to it. So all that being said, we're excited about it. David's done a great job. He's been great to work with. He's passionate about it. And he realizes, and we realize that, there's circumstances around this that are not ideal. As Holly mentioned, the lot's very narrow. So it really, kind of forced the geometry of the building. But at the same time, we feel like by having a larger front facade, it's really kind of made it look more like a really nice single-family home. We were able to keep the duplex on the property in order to help reduce the density overall for the overall development. And Dave's been a great owner. He's had great tenure with his tenants, and we feel like this is a need within the downtown area. So we're excited about presenting you Monroe Street Flats. I'm available for any questions. Mr. Criswell here is available as well. But thank you for hearing our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Roundtree. Any questions for Mr. Roundtree or the applicant? Seeing none, we will open the public hearing and ask anyone that would like to speak for or against this application. Seeing no one, we will adjourn the public hearing. Any questions, comments, or motions associated?
Motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Second.
It's the quickest motion I've ever heard.
Get it out of his mouth.
We have a motion, believe it or not.
Should I repeat that, slow it down a little bit?
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Mr. Rollins?
Aye.
Mr. Wright?
Aye.
Chair Halliburton?
Aye. We
Thank
have
you, Commission.
Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Mr. Griswold. All right, staff reports and other business.
Just a reminder that due to the modified schedule this month, we will have a daytime meeting next Wednesday, the 15th at 1 p.m.
I will not be here.
I will be.
All right, we're adjourned.